the leader that we need. There's a lot of people in the chattering classes and the liberal elites all over the world that really, really despise President Trump. I think they despise him because he's a businessman, not a typical politician. I've seen a clip on BBC this morning, and it's from a historian. He's a sir, so you know he's one of them. So we're going to bring up some information on him. Sir Anthony Beevor, a British military historian known for words like Stalingrad, Berlin downfall 1945, Battle of Spain on the Spanish Civil War. Okay, he's not a traditional left-wing or right-wing, he is a one-nation conservative, according to sources online. So it tells you everything that you need to know about him. He's very much in the mould of David Cameron and Theresa May, wet behind the ears. So I'm going to play this little clip from him first of all, and then we can interrogate what he says in a little bit more detail, which I think is important and instructive, and why Trump not being a politician is probably the best thing the West needs at the moment. So we're going to get into this now.
The negotiations that have been taking place between the Americans and the Russians, what do you think the White House is doing? Are they playing a smart game, or are they being played by Putin?
They're being totally played. I mean, Putin despises Trump. I mean, as far as he's concerned, he's his useful idiot. It's just like Lenin's version. And we know this, for example, from the Osaka conference in 2019, when Putin was starting to tease Trump. He said to him, Mr. Trump, I've done much more for Israel than people realize. And Trump slammed the table and said, nobody's done as much for Israel as I have. And Putin said, President Trump, perhaps they should rename their country after you. And Trump looked at him in astonishment for a moment and then said, no, I think that would be going a bit too far.
So a cordial banter or joke between two world leaders, especially two big players on the world stage, Russia being a regional power and America being the leader of the free Western world, for example. That doesn't mean you can't really infer from that whether somebody's an idiot or not. You really can't. And it's your Trump derangement syndrome showing, if you don't mind me saying so, sir. I don't think you should be a sir, to be honest. You don't seem particularly educated, even though you may have the letters. So we'll end that here. We want to get into the meat of the video, which is actually deconstructing that and why he's completely wrong. So we're going to get into that now. I love Britain. I love the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is not the empire that it once was, and that's a sad time for me, and it's a sad time for my country. I love the empire. I love Britain. Sue me. I don't care. The reality is there's three global players on the world stage, and we need to pick a side. Is it America, is it India, or is it China? Now you get some midwits on question time and they say, we need to join China, we need to join China.
It's come a time where we do need to look at what superpower we're going to essentially look at. You know, I think I'd rather be looking at China right now than I would America. At least China, we know what's going on with them. America, it seems like Trump especially, every day something wacky comes out, you know, whether that's buying Greenland or the stuff happening with ICE. So personally, I'd much rather be in China's bed at the moment than America's.
Definitely not the communists. The issue is there are different competing trade blocs in the world. People think, especially first world Westerners, we are the centre of the world, because it's all we know. That is not true. That couldn't be further from the truth. Many people around the world do not have our mentality, do not think the way that we do not have our values, and have no place in the West. One of the competing blocks in the world is known as BRICS. I'm going to bring up an image of BRICS now, but it contains China, it contains India, it contains Iran. There's a lot of people in the world, I think most of our leaders, think that BRICS is going to replace America and the EU as the dominant place for trade. And that's why when you see a Keir Starmer or Mark Carney going over to China to bend the knee, and China calls them their minions, it tells you everything you need to know. They're hedging their bets against America and China to see who comes out on top. This is a mistake, and this is wrong. We should be backing America to the hills. So we're going to get into some of the information that people... 3 major things that Trump has done. First of all, he seized the oil in Venezuela. This is important because the biggest buyer of that oil was China, which I'll get into in a bit. He secured a trade deal with India, which is also very important because one of the largest buyers of Russian oil since the war in Ukraine has been India. It does a bit of a tweak, a bit of a refinement on the oil, and it's sold back to the European continent, and that way we're not buying oil off Russia. These are the people that run our economies at the moment. You think people don't notice these things. Well, I'm bringing it to you and I do notice. They can go over and they can say, Putin, big bag. Putin is the enemy. He's very, very evil. We're still going to buy his oil, but we're just going to do it through a third party. So Britain, Europe are still funding the war in Ukraine, and they're funding both sides. So that's a bit of backstory. So we're going to get into the meat of the video now. Trump's trade agreement with India is not merely a tariff arrangement. It is a direct challenge to the geopolitical ambitions of BRICS. For years, the bloc has promoted itself as a rising counterweight to the West, openly discussing de-dollarization and the creation of an alternate reserve for and settlement systems to weaken the dominance of the US dollar and petrodollar order. Yet India, the largest democracy and one of its economic anchors, is now moving closer to Washington rather than away from it. This shift alone punctures the image of a unified anti-Western front. So we get into this now. Some people may not be aware of this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. The petrodollar, it refers to the US dollars received by oil exporting countries when they sell oil. This is because oil has historically been priced and traded in US dollars worldwide. It doesn't refer to a separate currency, it's just the dollars that are traded earned in oil sales. The global reserve currency is the US dollar. So the US, being the world leader, or the free world leader at least, has a stake in maintaining the status quo, has a stake in maintaining their reserve currency still being used because it works out well for them financially and the Western world in general, I may add. So we continue. Mechanics matter. By lowering barriers on goods and committing to purchase vast quantities of US energy, technology and agriculture, India is tying a significant stake in the future trade to dollar-denominated transactions. Energies imports priced in dollars reinforce a very petrodollar system, or the very petrodollar system BRICS hoped to sidestep. You cannot credibly build a post-dollar bloc while one of your biggest members is buying hundreds of billions worth of oil commodities from the United States. Every such deal strengthens the dollar and the dollar's role in the world reserve and trading currency. Think about that. You can't challenge America and you can't challenge the West in any meaningful way if one of your biggest players is in hock to America in a huge way like this is. Let me continue. The biggest buyer of Venezuelan oil was China. Okay, that's very important. That means that China was getting cheap energy from Venezuela, and Trump's put an end to that. So you see what Trump is doing here through the art of the deal by actually doing things like a businessman and thinking using strategy and planning. He is strengthening the West, he is strengthening America, and the competitors, India and China, aren't used to this. They're used to calling the shots and Trump isn't having it. This is exactly why Trump is a great president in my view. Let's just have a look now. I'll just leave this on screen for you for a minute. For context, in 2023, China took 68% of Venezuela's crude oil exports, and in 2024 to early 2025, China was dominant at about 64%. Okay? So China was buying all the Venezuelan oil, which is now under direct American control. Then we move on. This approach also relies on leverage rather than force. Instead of military adventures or expensive nation-building projects, Afghanistan, Iraq, anyone, pressure is applied through markets and supply chains. Reduced dependence on Russian oil hits Moscow where it hurts. If they can't sell their oil, how are they going to fund their war machine in Ukraine? This is what the smart person does. It doesn't fund a forever war, and it doesn't fund things that the American taxpayer don't want to pay for anymore. This is what a smart leader does. This is what a smart president does. People say, well, Trump isn't that bright. That might be true. Trump might not be that bright at all. His team is, his people are, his lawyers are, the business people, the analysts, the market people that are actually, doing all of this stuff, they will be smart. Trump may not be the brightest, but his team is. Let's just have a look now. Reduced dependence on Russian oil hits Moscow and where it hurts, which is the revenues, while countries such as Iran and Venezuela, long touted as pillars of the alternative energy order, look increasingly constrained and economically brittle. Far from leading a new system, they are struggling to maintain stability, all thanks to President Trump. Then we continue. Trump talks to Modi, and suddenly India appears to drop all tariffs on American goods to zero, commit to buying over $100 billion of American energy, technology, and agriculture, coal, and start moving away from Russian oil to US oil. Oh, sorry, not 100 million, or 100 billion, sorry, 500 billion. Let's get it right. Let me continue. Taken together, this message is straightforward. Western economic power remains decisive. America is not being replaced. It is still the partner countries choose when growth and security are on the line. By turning core BRICS members into major customers and energy buyers, the deal undermines the bloc's de-dollarization dreams and reinforces the petrodollar reality. For all the rhetoric about the post-American world, the global economy still runs through Washington, and so it should do. As I say, Britain isn't the centre of the universe anymore, but we still have a role to play. Many people need to get on board with this reality, and if you think that's the end of it, it's not. Trump is using his time as president to actually put in think tanks all over Europe, and these think tanks are right-leaning think tanks. So instead of the Tony Blair Institute on the left, you're going to have a MAGA one on the right. And it's to level the playing field because you've got all of these leftist think tanks all over the place. And they're all funded by the REF, they're all funded by Soros, they're all funded by the Economic Forum, and people who have a specific agenda for the way that they want the West to be going, which is probably in hoc to BRICS. Trump has ended this, and this is a great thing, and we should all get on board with it. Now, I hope I've made my case clear. By destabilising Venezuela, taking control of their oil, that means that China can't get its cheap energy from Venezuela. That's win number one. Win number two is Iran is no longer got immediate nuclear ambitions. And number three is the trade deal with India, which destabilises the BRICS alignments, the trading bloc, and it also makes Western dominance and American dominance more possible. This is all the things we should celebrate in my view. Now, if you like this video and you think I make some good points, make me aware. Have a good day, and thank you for watching. As always, you take it easy.